So I'll start my introduction. As I told you, this is a deep dive place-led development webinar. It's about Little C. It's an amazing project here in Rotterdam, and will be presented by Jaakko van Spijker. Some we start with some practical information. So if you don't want to be recorded, please hide your video, and please stay muted during the presentation. And if you're not speaking during the discussion, please put your mic also on mute. After the presentation, we have some time for a question and answer. And you can put the questions already in the chat, or you can raise your hand during the question and answer session. So we will share this webinar online within following days. And then we all let you know, and enjoy. As I told you, this is a place-led development session, and place-led development is like the sweet spot of placemaking, area development, and community building. So we believe that an area development should make strong communities, has a great public space, has human skill, and have a soul of a place, and a great city of eye level. And I think the coming project has all of that. So we defined a good project in like 3 active pillars, so to say. So you have the software, which is the use and the activities. You have the orgware, which is the ownership and the management of a place. And you have the hardware, which is the spatial and physical quality of let's say the hardware, the buildings, and the public space. This is not the first deep dive we had. This is actually the 8th. We started with the waterfront in Angers. We had Barcelona, the super blocks. We have a social housing project in Milan. We had a business model for reconnecting communities in Swiss. And we had place mapping of all the of the whole world. And we had the flying grass carpet. But now we will talk about Little C. And Little C, as I told you, we have the software, the orgware, and the hardware. This one is more hardware driven. So we have an architect who is going to speak, which is, I think, the first architect we have on these deep dive sessions. So if you want to read more about place-led development, we made a great brochure. I have it here, so it's really in print, but it is also downloadable, and you can download it from the Placemaking Europe website. And I will put a link in the chat later. So we have a very active working group. We really are looking into a lot of projects together. And if you want to be an active member, you can do that by writing an email to the following email address. And now it's time to introduce Jaakko van Spijker a little bit. And I know on a personal level, I know Jaakko already for 25 years or something. He is one of the few members of my generation architects here in the Netherlands who really made the switch to human-centered and nice human-skilled projects. And I'm very respecting for that. And I've seen his development coming from more OMA, more modernistic kind of approach to now a more like human-centered place-led development kind of. But you will see that for yourself. So I stop sharing my screen, and then Jaakko, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Bart, and thanks very much for the invitation also to speak in this webinar. And I think you are right that with the theme of placemaking in mind, this project is very on point. So I hope to take you all through this project and give you a little bit of an impression of the journey we've been on for the last 10 years, because that is altogether the amount of time it has taken to realize this project. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. Let's hope it all works out as planned. Yeah, here we go. So yeah, here's an aerial impression of the project Little C. The fun in the title, of course, is that it is not that little at all, but at the same time, there is already the reference to the small scale that addresses the human experience of this project that we have had in mind from the beginning. So yeah, this is a story of placemaking in Rotterdam, in just on the edge of the center. You can see here's the Erasmus Bridge and the river Maas that flows through Rotterdam. And on the edge of one of the side waterways called the Coolhaven basin is located, and that's where Little C is on the waterfront of. And it has been a really big jump if you look at where we came from. So this is an impression of the G. de Jongweg, the road that was the waterfront before. You can just see to the left a little bit of an edge of that water. This is what it looks today like. So you have here a place not only that has become a nice area for residences, but what we are very proud of and very happy about is that it has been embraced by the city as a whole. And on hot days in the summer, this is what happens. A lot of people flock to here to chill out and even take a little dive into the water. Now, we have worked on that with our office. I'll quickly give you a little bit of a backdrop on who we are as an office. JVST, we are architects and urban planners in Rotterdam. That's where we are located. And our mission is very explicit. It is to create friendly urban places for people. And a lot of people kind of implicitly say that, but we are very proud to take this on as a very outspoken message and not be shy about it. And we are working on a wide range of projects on different scales in our office. And I think that also the office and the attitude we have in the office all contribute to the kind of projects that we are making, and that we have called it a professional playground, which means we are about making. These are serious projects that we are involved with serious budgets and responsibilities. So you have to be precise and professional about it. At the same time, we are also trying to contribute with a playful attitude in it, making models and researching things with an open mind. And we do this also together. So you don't work hermetically alone in these kind of projects. We contribute to the city. We think it's really important to always keep in mind what you are giving the city with a project, and also to talk about it with the people involved. And this photo is actually one of the first meetings. You can see me here in the green shirt, a lot younger than I am today. This was, I think, in around 2010 or 2011, when we were discussing the early stages of the project after we had won the tender. Our office works on different levels, and you could say that we are, on the one hand, indebted to Collage City, that is referring to a title of a book by of Fred Cooter and Colin Rowe, where stitching the city, continuing urban fabric is a very strong theme. And connecting urban tissues with each other. This is, you could say, the kind of classic urbanism approach. At the same time, we believe that you always have to also keep in mind the experience level of the city. So how it feels in the areas that we are designing and developing. And that is a less tangible thing. That is more about feeling. And these two layers come together into what we dub in the office experience urbanism. And that is the combination. Yeah, it kind of refers a bit to the diagram that Bart just showed, where urban hardware and urban software come together. And this is a layered approach where landscape is of the basis, but the technical systems are very important for also organizing the resilience of the city, and communal networks, organizing that people meet, is an important layer. So altogether, these layers form what we are always talking about as experience urbanism. And the Coolhaven project, the Little C project, is a real example of what it can bring about if all these layers come together and interlock in the way that they can reinforce each other. And we are, because this project is so well addressing the mission that we have as an office, we were very honored and pleased that it has not been unnoticed. We've got a lot of acclaim for it, particularly in the Netherlands, a lot of press, and also we won several awards with this project. So that is a little bit of backdrop, and now I'll tell you about the project itself. This is another angle from what it looked like when we started. And there was a competition organized based on a zoning plan, which was established in 2008. And you can see here in the middle of this kind of bull's eye, that is the location that we are talking about. And this plan shows already an awareness that this was potentially a focal point in the city, although nobody really knew how at the time. And when we were working on the tender, we were invited in competition with a couple of other offices. It became very clear to us already from the outset that this was not to be an area that was to function as a standalone, but that we had the potential or maybe also the obligation to make it something that connected various areas in the city. Because this was, as you could see on the photo before already, a pretty bleak area. And then on the south end, where my mouse is now, is a traffic crossing, a strange roundabout that is really an impossible hurdle to take when you traverse the city. And it needed a bit of love and gentleness and friendliness, this rough collection of infrastructures. And this is the scheme that we won the competition with. So it was a pretty bold statement at the time. We really also went out of the boundaries of the project, but the statement was very clear, and that was that we wanted to add a piece of urban fabric to the city rather than a couple of monolithic or singular buildings. So the connectivity was the theme in it. And after we won the competition, we developed the plan further, and we sealed the essences of the plan in very early in the process in a series of 6 sheets or 6 themes which we shook hands on almost as it were with the clients and everybody involved in the team, also with the municipality, to say this is what the project is about. And when the process gets going and we go towards building and we encounter all the problems that as you do in such a process, we will do everything we can to keep these principles alive. And I'll quickly go through you because they found through these 6 principles, because they really are the foundation of the plan. So this is the first one. It's called Verankerd in de Stad in Dutch, and that means anchored in the city. And you can see here that the project together with the waterfront park, is acting like a connector that is embracing several flows of the city. For instance, this is an important water canal single, like a landscape canal, that by making this project suddenly will be connected in a very pleasant way to the park on the other side of the project. And another example is that the big hospital complex that is on the east side of the project has a collective or public backbone running through it, and we will connect it all through with a bridge that is now, the construction is starting very soon, all through the plan to the water. And like that, the plan is really functioning as a connector. The park I just mentioned already is really an integral part of the plan. The plan itself is very dense, and it has a kind of a counter-balancing element in the park on the waterfront that is open and green. And the third theme was to make a small-scale urban environment. So you can see here one of the early renders that we made of the plan, and it really clarifies the potential of making a collection of buildings that are all slightly different from each other, that form a family, but also form an interesting and urban fabric which offers a lot of variation when you go through it. And with this density and this idea of an urban fabric, we really thought that it would be good to have a kind of village-like, when you make some small-scale intervention like this in the city of Rotterdam, it is a new way of thinking. And it is as if you make a little village in the big city. And that was one of the reasons why we started to look at the village in New York as a reference, because that is a real proof that a small-scale environment can exist and thrive in the context of a very large metropolitan context. So, and we've gone into looking into a lot of architectural elements to understand what makes the neighborhood of the village so successful. And you can see here with the red markings that we identified numerous elements that contribute to a very pleasant neighborhood that reads informally, and it makes it very logical for anyone to understand why this guy sits down here and starts fiddling on his phone in a very relaxed manner. So that means that this piece of street is soft and inviting rather than harsh and hostile. The next theme is to make a community. So to organize community, we had to do something special with the roofs to make them collective and accessible. And this is also something we succeeded in. I'll show you that later. And it also had to do with how we dealt with car parks. So no cars in the area apart from one access road to the side. But for the rest, it's a car-free zone with cars parked underneath. And also the ground level is used in a mixed way. So it's a combination of housing and other functions that really make for a very diverse experience on the ground level. So, and the final thing is that this is not a plan that looks only the way it does on the outside, but that it's a concept that is through and through followed up into the types and the design of the individual apartments themselves. So it makes sense when you're inside as well. So these were 6 themes. It sounds all very evident and simple, but I can assure you that it's very hard to keep this all afloat when it gets real, because there's always budgetary restrictions and organizational challenges and what have you. And for that, it is really important to mention that we did this as a team. So with JVST, we work together with Jurk and Geluk. They are landscape architects. Together with them, we work often together also under the name of Cult. And we did the urban plan together. They did the landscaping, and then we developed it further into the architecture. But also IMBO came on board, and they are an architecture and architectural engineering firm. And with the three of us, Cor from Wielig en Geluk and Bert from IMBO, it was a very well-functioning team to make this plan work. And on the other side, we had the client, and they were also extremely committed to the qualities of this plan. It was two developing contractors, Era Contour and JP van Eesteren. And yeah, we really worked as an integral team together during the development of the project. And that shows also here, this is everybody together from the different groups I just addressed. This is Cor, that's Bert, me. I had done something with my nose. That's hence the plaster. But you can really see the fun. This is one of the award ceremonies where we went to pick it up together. So the team was extremely important to keep each other sharp and keep the ambitions alive while we were going. And when we got going, you can see that this is another sketch that addresses the connectivity in the plan. We started to develop the urban plan all kinds of ways, but always within the back of our mind, the informal human skill that needed to be realized. So not like this in a little stepping stone, which reads like a systematic approach, very rational, but much more informal ways of organizing the volumes in relation to each other. And then, of course, also making sure that the parking garage was underground and stayed underground, despite all the financial challenges that came with it, and also organizing that some areas were spared for trees in that garage. And as we were developing it further, you have to have in mind that the tender was won already in 2009. And then there was a crisis for a while, as most of you can probably remember. And we picked it up really again in 2014 with the design. So it was on ice for 4 years, I think. And then we developed it further, and this is what was distilled as the program of the plan. So it's a mix of rental housing, buyers housing, offices, and a place for short stay people who are having family members in the hospital close by. And then on the ground floor, a mix of uses. And from the very beginning, we started to talk to the people who would potentially be living there. So they organized these kind of big participation events where people who had an interest in the plan could come and think with us. This was, on the one hand, a really good way of getting information, but also to raise awareness of the plan and also to bind people potentially who were interested in to the plan. So these were fun meetings, and there was an incredible amount of interest when the plan got a little bit of clout. We made models for even architectural models for this phase to be able to explain to people the potential of the plan and of the individual dwellings. And we also asked everybody what they would think of it. Because this plan, even though it looks very cute and friendly, it does make a couple of very strong, it takes a very strong position, also with the small individual blocks that are in it. And they are so small, I'll show you that in a minute, that we needed to connect them with bridges on the outside. And these were things that we were also very curious about, whether people would find that appealing or maybe would hate it and find it scary. So we got a lot of information back from inhabitants. They loved the idea of the bridges, by the way. And as an outcome of that, we made a very large range of types for the plan that were then also puzzled into the plan and led to a very strong, rich typological variation. And the process of being together with people, collecting them, their information, feedbacks, and also explaining the plan went on throughout the whole sales process, which was also very, very interactive. So that was the way that the base was laid, the foundation was laid for the community that would come and live in Little C. But of course, we also needed to develop the architecture. And even though this is a placemaking event, I would like to take a moment to show you how that came about, because I really strongly believe that the architectural expression and the atmosphere that comes with it strongly contributes to the success of this feeling as a place in the city. And what we did here was basically to have a combination of rooted inspirations and also inspirations from abroad, and in this case, New York, because we really liked what we saw there in the village and also in the meatpacking district, in buildings that were non-abstract and which created a very friendly vibe on the street in a very high density. And in Rotterdam, funnily enough, of course, everybody associates Little C very much with New York, but very close to the project, there are also numerous buildings that have similar qualities, only they are not as visible because they are so scattered far away from each other. But if you zoom into the craftsmanship and the detailing in these Rotterdam buildings in the neighborhood, they are also very strongly, they really inspired us just as much as New York. So you could see that it's the scattered qualities from close by, together with a very dense inspiration from New York, together created a vibe or mood board that we felt we were going to try to achieve in this plan. And as you can already see in this kind of mood board, you by doing this, it's a very strong statement also in terms of the placemaking. So we developed an architectural language, architectural elements for the different sizes of the buildings that we were going to design. And you could see that this is a kind of a architectural grammar. We then started to apply to the different types of buildings to come to a balanced and a coherent architectural ensemble. We had large buildings that we looked at how we can make them family of each other while giving them a slight variation. Same we did with the small buildings, and then we started to put them together and started to test how this ensemble could be materialized or worked out a bit further in architectural designs with sketches. Then we combined the sketches with collages, and step by step it became more real, with these individual buildings just getting a little bit of their own identity, each different from another. There was a rule we gave ourselves: no two buildings are exactly the same. This was developed into more serious designs in the computer, and step by step you could see that the whole ensemble was taking shape. In the end, it was built like this. The material choice played, of course, an important role in this, and we wanted to have a very tactile and tangible, warm expression for it. So the brick, the choice in that was very important, and also making sure a lot of green would grow on it. And we really went out of our way to find the right brick. I actually cycled around with these samples to check them against buildings we found had a nice, warm and friendly expression that would be fitting for this project. And here you see one of the samples that we ended up choosing for the plan, checked in real daylight against some examples that are already built. Did the same for windows to understand what would be the right size of the measure, how you break them down into smaller things. And then this was a catalog of windows we developed. And there was an important role for this guy, an artist called Ruud-Jan Kokke, who designed all the steelworks. So that got a very specific and outspoken quality as well. And this was all brought together in plans, of course. And then in these plans, I just zoom out this little area. It shows us a feature that I mentioned just before about the bridges. Because these buildings, the grain, the fabric is so small that you cannot fit the two emergency staircases and a lift together in each of these blocks. Basically, you would have no building left to live in. It would be filled up entirely with stairs and lifts. But what we did was we made combinations of three that work together under one access system. So here is one stair, there's the other stair, and there's the lift. And all together, they are connected, so they all have everything they need. So if you live here, for instance, you would take the lift here, come out, go out over the bridge, and then go back into this building and walk home. Now, the size of an individual block is, I must say it's correct, 16 by 20 meters. No, I'm saying it wrong. It's 12 by 18 meters. It's about 200, just over 200 square meters footprint for each of these blocks. And that is spectacularly small in buildings that are made today. Basically, developers will really frown when you propose it. So did these clients, but we convinced them that with these bridges that it would work. And you can see here that these bridges then also in the design of Ruud-Jan Kokke became a real mark of the plan and that they really strongly contribute to the atmosphere and ambiance that was reached in the inside of the fabric, together, of course, with the green that you see abundantly. And yeah, all these elements together, the way it was started up with the communication with people, together with this typology and architecture, led to what is now has become a really vibrant community. So this is one of the roof terraces where the inhabitants of the three blocks that share this roof terrace with the bridges and everything have their regular drinks and parties with each other. You can also see here in a couple of these images how the daily use has come about of these areas. So a lot of informal use of the place outside and in between buildings. And that brings us to the last important element of this plan, and that is the public space design. It was made by Cor, but we really collaborated very intensely to make sure that the architecture and the public space design would support each other very coherently. And when you talk about the public space of the plan, it really starts with scale. And you can see here in this big white sheet, this gray area, this is a little plan of the little C. And we made it this small because we wanted to show what paradigm shift is. That is here next to it. You see the Muller Pier on the same scale. This is, for those who know Rotterdam, an area quite close to the plan. And this is very much, if you develop a regular, according to the regular logic, an urban plan, this is the scale you will most likely end up with, or in this order of magnitude. And that shows what a paradigm shift was made with little c. It looks huge, but it is really small and cute compared to a lot of plans that at first glance, especially in photos, would almost look the same order of magnitude. But this is much more family of a very different type of urban spaces. For instance, the ones in Berlin, in the Heckische Höfe, where you get these old interstitial spaces in the big urban blocks of Berlin. And those to scale are very much making sense in relation to little c. So it was important to understand what kind of scale we were dealing with here, and to also then make sure it would work in a new built project. Because these are the kind of spaces that often people love, but yeah, they are in all cities, and today we can't really do that anymore. It doesn't work like that with all the regulations and the restrictions. Well, here we proved that you can work on that scale. And you have to organize a number of things very well, also to organize the communal life well. So we took a lot of care of placing the entrances in a way that would make sure that there was a lot of traffic on the ground, and people would be encouraged to meet each other. Also, the orientation of the different dwellings. Hello? Oh, and then we looked very carefully at how all the buildings would land on the ground. So these are examples of how the way the buildings land on the ground came about in the real life. And then here you see a drawing of the design of the waterfront park. The waterfront park was, as I said earlier, an integral part of the design. And here you see the design, the landscaping design of the spaces inside the built fabric, where the material works very well with the bricks together. And also, I just showed you before the section where a couple of places were organized so that trees could be planted going through the parking garage. That is one on each square. And the landscape designers really made a very rich planting scheme for the public space. And altogether, you can see here an example of the vibe that creates. So it has seriously become a community for the people who live there. Here's a couple of them having a little drink in front of the one of the houses. And it has become a very popular hangout that also works very nice in the hot summer days when it's a bit cool and shaded. That is the kind of thing you can only dream of happening when designing the plan. That concludes my explanation about the plan. So you can take it from here.
Yeah, thank you very much, Jaakko.